First, we'll take you live to the Arsenal training ground on a big week for the club after the North London derby victory over Tottenham on Sunday. They're now off to Atalanta in Italy for their Champions League opener tomorrow night before a trip to the Etihad Live on Super Sunday to face Manchester City. Let's get an update on the fitness of key players with our reporter Michael, who's been watching them train before their flight to Bergamo. Afternoon, any sign of Arsenal's captain Martin Odegaard today? Good afternoon, Nick. Yeah, no, there's no sign of Martin Odegaard for this lunchtime's training session, so we have to assume that there will be no Martin Odegaard for Arsenal's trip to Atalanta. They're actually leaving soon, heading off to the airport and traveling to Italy. Obviously, we get a definitive update from Mikel Arteta. It looks like it's pretty obvious that he will be missing Thursday's game, but maybe an update on the injury. Of course, on Friday, he said to my colleague Gary Cotterill that didn't completely rule him out of the North London derby. We did wonder if that was mind games. He didn't make that North London derby. It didn't matter in the end, did it? But will he make Thursday? It's looking unlikely because he wasn't part of training. The training we were allowed to see the first 15 minutes of footage, but we'll hear from Mikel Arteta later on Sky Sports News. On Odegaard's ankle injury, of course, he sustained the injury on international duty playing for Norway. More injury news as well. Still no Zinchenko or Tomiyasu. Both have calf injuries. Now Michael Merino, obviously a disappointment for him, picking up that shoulder injury as soon as he'd signed for Arsenal. We understand that that is actually progressing quite well and a few weeks away now. So that will be a massive boost for Mikel Arteta when he comes back to really bolster that central midfield. So mixed injury news for Arsenal, and of course they will welcome back Declan Rice. Of course he missed that one. He had that one-game suspension after picking up that second yellow against Brighton, missing the North London derby. A big worry from Arsenal supporters. Missing such a big game didn't matter in the end because Arsenal are going to Thursday's game in good mood after that victory. Bukayo Saka limped off in that victory over Tottenham. Is he going to be fit? Yeah, Bukayo Saka should be absolutely fine for Thursday's match. He did train with Arsenal. He came out with his Arsenal teammates this morning. We understand that it wasn't so much of an injury in that North London derby, it was more cramp. Of course he's up and down, isn't he, Bukayo Saka? Such a key player for Arsenal, but of course England as well. He played many minutes under the interim head coach Lee Kazi, which would have probably worried some Arsenal supporters. But Bukayo Saka should be fine for Thursday. Wherever he starts, we'll wait and see. Of course, there's not much time between Atalanta and that huge game between Manchester City. Good news as well for Arsenal. Riccardo Calafiori had that calf problem, didn't he? But he did train as well. He was out there with his Arsenal teammates. We saw him being part of London Fashion Week. Looking fantastic as well, weren't he? A few days ago, walking around all fine. And he was training all fine earlier. So I say it's mixed Arsenal injury news. I think it's more better Arsenal injury news than anything. Mikel Arteta is going to face the media this evening once they've arrived in Bergamo, with Manchester City coming up such a big game for their title hopes. Might he rotate a bit tonight, despite it being Champions League? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing what Mikel Arteta plans for tomorrow night's Champions League game. He wants to get off to a great start, Nick, doesn't he? It's a new format in the Champions League. We saw it last night. Liverpool making a great start. Aston Villa making a great start. But of course, Manchester City playing before Arsenal. And it's going to feel strange, isn't it? A Champions League on a Thursday night. It's going to get a bit of getting used to for some supporters. And of course, the Thursday-Sunday, which you're used to if you're following a club in the Europa League. Of course, this side were in the Europa League for a number of years. Not anymore. They're becoming Champions League regulars under Mikel Arteta. So we'll see if he does do much rotation. I think we know a few players that probably will start. One is the goalkeeper who's really cemented his place as the number one. David Raya. He's expected to start. Then there's ever-presence like Ben White. I expect him to start as well. Then you've got Gabriel. Julian Timber. Of course, he had that serious injury last season, but he was so impressive in the North London derby on Sunday. Raheem Sterling came on, didn't he? In the North London derby. He looked sharp. He looked fit. He might be pushing for a start. Gabriel Jesus and the 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri, who is so highly regarded at this football club. He might only be 17, but when you come on in a North London derby, you can pretty much handle anything. So he's pushing for a start as well. Now, I know the games have been quite tight, but these have been 3 key games. Spurs. Doesn't matter where they are on the table. That's always a massive game. Then you've got this Champions League opener, and then of course a huge Super Sunday, Manchester City. But the reason why I feel maybe he won't make too many changes tomorrow night, because after that, he's got Bolton on the Wednesday night at home in the Emirates in the Carabao Cup. Maybe he just looks and says, look, let's get these 3 massive games out of the way. And then maybe you can rest a couple of the key players. So much to speak to Mikel Arteta about. It won't be me, it'll be my colleague Kerry Cotter, who's already there waiting. And Arsenal fans always ask us on Sky Sports News who's the player we're going to hear from. Well, that player will be Jorgen here.